Hi guys, welcome back to Try Tuesdays. Here I am with Coach Lee Soltman. So it's Tuesday, Lee is here, the talk is triathlons. Now, last week, Lee, we talked about sprint triathlons. I mean, that's the entry level one. That's the one most people are doing, and those are the ones that most people can participate in. But I think that in the back of the mind of every one of those people, and you know who you are, who engage in those sprint triathlons, is they got us a target. I'd love to do one of those Ironman.
Sure.
I mean, that's like the epitome of the sport. And if you get in the sport and you're serious about it, I think that you eventually want to try yourself at that distance, at that intensity. So we talked about how to train for the sprints. How do we train for the Ironman?
It's a big deal. This is the U.S. We supersize everything, so people get into it and they automatically want to do an Ironman. And I see that every week, and Ironman's tough. 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of cycling, plus you have to be fit enough to run 26.2 miles right after that. So it's a big animal, and I think to break it down, if we just talk about the bike training being inside procycling.tv, and we talk about Ironman, talk about the bike training is smart training. Mm-hmm. Finding the time in your week to put in the training. How many hours do you realistically have to devote to your cycling training? And remember, like I said, you have to be not just fit enough to do 112. You have to be fit enough to do more than 112. You have to have the fitness to be able to run a long time after that. Mm-hmm. So I'm a firm believer in putting in over distance and having over distance training sessions. Depending on the athlete, 3 to 5 rides over 112 miles in training. Hopefully pop off a little run after that. But during the week, finding the realistic time you have to devote and having that one day where you can put in the long endurance training. And if you look at a heart rate graph or a power graph of an Ironman triathlete, you're going to see they're going to be working aerobically the whole time. So going out and thinking that you're going to be holding your threshold for 4, 5, 6 hours, it's not going to happen. So first thing you have to do, set up your training zones, whether it's heart rate training zones or power training zones, and then use your zones, use your aerobic zones to train for the race.
Okay, now we talked about that in your estimation, somebody to be somewhat competitive in a sprint triathlon should do about 6 to 8 hours of training a week. Now, what would be the minimum time to be competitive for an Ironman?
I think minimum probably 13 to 15 hours minimum. The majority of our athletes will get up in the 18-hour range.
How about the pros?
30 to 40 hours a week.
30 to 40 hours?
30 to 40 hours a week.
Because I know a pro cyclist does between 25 and 30.
Yep.
So, I mean, and now he's only doing one sport.
Right.
Now doing 3 sports.
They're doing 3 sports, and the pro triathletes, it's probably a double-edged sword. It's a fantastic, exciting lifestyle. I've never lived it. I've lived with my athletes who are pros and see what they go through for a week or 2 weeks. But it takes time to be able to get in the groove of training, eating, then going to sleep, waking up and doing another 1 or 2 sessions, and doing that every day and not getting burnt out and not getting injured, and being able, I think, to absorb the type of training, because maybe some newbie professional triathletes can do it for 1 or 2 weeks, but can they do it all season long? Can they see results?
Now, as a cyclist, I know that running doesn't help my cycling, but cycling does help running. So is there a carryover, like in fitness? There's got to be a fitness carryover.
What we say is
from one sport to the other.
What we say is there's a general fitness improvement, a general aerobic fitness improvement by cycling and by running. But once you get into the nitty-gritty of triathlon, everything is very sport specific. So because you can do, let's say, maybe under an hour for a 40-kilometer time trial, doesn't mean you're going to be able to run 6.5, 7-minute miles. Generally speaking, you're very aerobically fit, you're in shape, but it's not going to help you get faster in that specific sport.
Now, does anybody actually do the distances in one day as training? I mean,
great question.
Does anybody do that?
I'm sure there are people that do the full Ironman in training to see if they can do it, but I don't know of many, and none of our athletes do it. We have some big days that we call super days that we put together for our athletes. We taper them down for 48 to 72 hours. Then they have a big day. We get a good amount of compensation out of them. a good amount of preparation. Mental skills are improved because they go along, but they don't put it all together in training. I don't think so.
No, that would be a heck of that would be a super duper day.
That would be a double super duper day.
Yeah. Okay. But now, what would be a good, let's say, a target time that people should shoot for? You know, if they're really serious about it.
Everyone's different. Every course is different. That's a good question.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Every course is different, but you know, I think finishing an Ironman is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing to check off the bucket list. And I don't think the first one doesn't matter what time, because I have seen some very fast athletes not do well at their first Ironman. But it's all relative. So if you take an individual who can do an Olympic distance race in 2 hours, maybe he's an elite age group racer, and he does his first Ironman in 13 hours. Well, some people would say 13 hours is kind of slow, but you know what? He finished his first Ironman. How many people can say they actually did an Ironman? And I think no matter what the time for your first one, it's a great achievement, and then you can start chipping away from there. What I can say is, in a roundabout way, from your first Ironman to your second Ironman, a lot of people can take off over an hour just by the sheer fact that they've already done one. And that's because the first one you're really training to train, and the second one you can train to race. The first one you're just training to be able to absorb the training.
Well, you have no idea what to expect either, because since, like we talked about, most people don't do an Ironman activity, you know, prior to doing the event. So you you really don't know how your body's going to react on those last 10 kilometers of the run or the whatever, you know. So I can see how, you know, you would do the first one to sort of like get your feet wet, and then from there, the next one you
see if you like it.
Yeah.
See if you like
Great. So I hope that this was useful to you guys. I mean, to me, it's all brand new because my sport is cycling, and I've never done Ironmans. I don't have the 25, 30 hours, let alone the 35, 40 hours that probably some of these guys do. But at any rate, thank you very much, Lee. That was really informative, and I hope it was informative to you guys as well. So we'll be back to you next Tuesday with Coach Lee Saltman from Body's End. And in the meantime, we'll be seeing you real soon. Thank you.